In the blink of an eye, a quiet evening walk turned into a nightmare. Two young boys, full of life and promise, were struck down by a speeding Mercedes in an affluent Los Angeles neighborhood. The driver? A wealthy socialite and celebrated philanthropist. But as the investigation unfolded, a shocking question emerged. Was this a tragic accident or a calculated act of murder? This is an astonishing story of Rebecca Grossman, a woman whose glamorous life hid a darker truth. On a serene September evening in 2020, the Iskander family of Westlake, California, set out for a routine walk. Nancy Iskander and her three sons Mark, Jacob, and Zachary were enjoying the cool dusk air. Nancy and Jacob glided on inline skates. Mark rode his skateboard, and little Zachary zipped ahead on his scooter. Kareem, Nancy's husband, pushed their one-year-old daughter in a stroller a few paces behind. It was a picture-perfect family moment until it wasn't. At 7 p.m., just 6 minutes after sunset, Nancy and the boys decided to cross Triunfo Canyon Road to reach a nearby lake for a photo. But as they stepped onto the street, Nancy noticed two SUVs, one white, one black, barreling toward them at an insane speed. She raised her hand, hoping to signal the drivers to slow down. It was too late. The black SUV roared past, narrowly missing Nancy and Zachary. But the white Mercedes, driven by 57-year-old Rebecca Grossman, didn't stop. Mark 11 was thrown 250 feet into the air, while 8-year-old Jacob was flung 50 feet to the curb. The scene was chaos. Nancy screamed for her boys, but the damage was done. Mark died instantly. Jacob rushed to the hospital, succumbed to his injuries soon after. Meanwhile, Rebecca Grossman, the driver of the white Mercedes, pulled over a quarter-mile down the road. Her airbags had deployed, and the car's safety system automatically called 911. When the operator asked if she had hit anyone, Rebecca seemed bewildered. "I don't know what I did," she stammered. She claimed she hadn't felt an impact, only that her airbags had suddenly exploded. When deputies arrived, Rebecca's demeanor raised red flags. She repeatedly asked about the children the 911 operator had mentioned, offering her husband, a renowned plastic surgeon, to help. But her story didn't add up. Investigators suspected she had been drinking. A breathalyzer test flirted with the legal limit, and blood tests showed her alcohol level hovering just below impairment. Yet, her erratic behavior and the devastation left in her wake told a different story. Rebecca Grossman wasn't just any driver. She was a wealthy socialite, a philanthropist celebrated for her work with the Grossman Burn Foundation, which provided life-changing surgeries to burn victims worldwide. She had even been featured on Oprah for her humanitarian efforts. But on this night, the woman once praised for her selflessness was arrested for vehicular manslaughter and driving under the influence. The charges would soon escalate to something far more sinister: second-degree murder. As the investigation deepened, a darker narrative emerged. Witnesses claimed Rebecca and her boyfriend, former LA Dodgers pitcher Scott Erickson, had been racing their SUVs down the road, weaving in and out of lanes at speeds far exceeding the 45 miles per hour limit. Surveillance footage captured the two vehicles speeding toward the intersection moments before the crash. Rebecca's defense: she wasn't the only one on the road that night. She pointed to other vehicles, even suggesting Scott's black Mercedes might have struck the boys first. But the evidence painted a damning picture. Rebecca's white Mercedes showed clear signs of impact, and her blood alcohol level, though not legally over the limit, suggested she wasn't entirely sober. The Iskander family was left shattered. Mark, the protector of the family, who dreamed of becoming a neurosurgeon by day and a stand-up comedian by night, was gone. Jacob, the spirited boy who loved to make people laugh, was gone. Their parents were left to mourn the unimaginable loss of two sons in a single senseless moment. As the case unfolded, Rebecca's once sterling reputation began to crumble. The woman who had traveled the world to save lives was now accused of recklessly taking two. public opinion shifted rapidly, and the media painted her as a privileged socialite who had evaded accountability for far too long. But this was only the beginning. The trial would reveal even more shocking details, leaving everyone to wonder. Was this a tragic accident or a crime that deserved the harshest punishment? For years after a tragic crash claimed the lives of two young boys, the trial of Rebecca Grossman finally began. But as the courtroom drama unfolded, shocking revelations emerged. Was this a case of reckless driving or something far more sinister? And why did a key witness hide in the bushes that night? This is the explosive conclusion to a story that left a community shattered and a family searching for justice. The trial of Rebecca Grossman was anything but ordinary. Nearly 4 years after the deaths of Mark and Jacob Iskander, the courtroom became a battleground of conflicting narratives. Rebecca's defense team, led by attorney Tony Busby, argued that Scott Erickson, her boyfriend and former LA Dodgers pitcher, was the true culprit. They pointed to surveillance footage showing Scott's black Mercedes speeding at 72 miles per hour, compared to Rebecca's 58 miles per hour. But experts countered that Rebecca's Mercedes had been accelerating to 81 miles per hour, just seconds before impact, far exceeding the 45 miles per hour speed limit. The prosecution painted a damning picture. They argued that Rebecca knew the risks of speeding. In 2013, she had been pulled over for driving 92 miles per hour on the freeway and warned by an officer that her actions could kill someone. Her response? A chilling reminder that the officer might one day need the services of the Grossman Burn Center, implying she could deny him care. This history of reckless driving, combined with her blood alcohol level hovering near the legal limit, suggested a pattern of dangerous behavior. But the most shocking testimony came from Rebecca's own daughter, 19-year-old Alexis Grossman. Alexis revealed that on the night of the crash, she had seen Scott Erickson hiding in the bushes near the scene. According to Alexis, Scott was poking his head out to observe the chaos, his face red and reeking of alcohol. When confronted, Scott allegedly threatened Alexis, saying, "I'll ruin you and your family if you tell anyone." This bombshell testimony raised questions about Scott's involvement, why he was never called to the stand. Despite the defense's efforts to shift blame, the evidence against Rebecca was overwhelming. Data from her Mercedes showed she had been accelerating at nearly 100% just before the crash. Experts testified that had she been driving the speed limit, she could have stopped in time to avoid hitting the boys. The prosecution argued that Rebecca's actions met the threshold for second-degree murder. She knew the risks of speeding and chose to ignore them. As the jury deliberated, Rebecca made one last attempt to sway public opinion. She allegedly reached out to a Fox News reporter, claiming the case had been botched and that key evidence proving her innocence had been suppressed. She even sent a letter to Nancy Iskander, the boy's mother, detailing her own suffering, but stopping short of taking responsibility for the crash. Nancy, devastated by the loss of her sons, called the letter offensive and all about her. After 2 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty on all counts. Rebecca Grossman was convicted of 2 counts of second-degree murder and 1 count of hit-and-run. As the judge read the verdict, Rebecca's family erupted in anguish. Her daughter, Alexis, screamed, "Oh my God," while her son shook and cried. Rebecca, handcuffed and led away, whispered, "I love you," as her family shouted in protest. But the story didn't end there. Rebecca's legal team filed motions for a new trial and successfully removed the original prosecutors from the case, further delaying justice. When her sentence was finally handed down, it was a blow to the Iskander family. Despite the state's argument that Rebecca showed no remorse and believed her wealth would buy her freedom, the judge showed leniency. Rebecca was sentenced to 15 years for each murder and 4 years for the hit and run, to be served concurrently. She could be eligible for parole in just 7 to 10 years. For Nancy Iskander, the sentence felt like a betrayal. "It's a 2-4-1, she said, her voice heavy with pain. "I've seen hate from them. They laughed when I cried in court." And the letter she sent me. It was all about her suffering, as if my boys' deaths were just another tragedy in her life. The Iskanders' fight for justice continues. They've filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Rebecca, set to go to trial in December 2025. But for now, they find solace in the memory of their boys. Mark, the protector who dreamed of becoming a neurosurgeon by day and a comedian by night. Jacob, the spirited boy who loved to make people laugh. Their lives were cut short, but their legacy lives on in the hearts of those who loved them. This case is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of reckless behavior. 2 young lives were lost, a family was shattered, and a community was left searching for answers. Rebecca Grossman's fall from grace, from celebrated philanthropist to convicted murderers, a cautionary tale about privilege, accountability, and the lengths some will go to avoid responsibility. But beyond the courtroom drama, this story is about Mark and Jacob Iskander. 2 boys who brought joy to everyone they met. 2 boys who deserve to grow up, chase their dreams, and live full lives. Their memory reminds us to cherish every moment with our loved ones and to fight for justice no matter how long it takes. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the most gripping true crime cases. Let us know in the comments, do you think justice was served? And what do you make of Rebecca Grossman's actions? Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.